Imagine you own a bank. The vault is 10 feet of reinforced steel. The alarms are wired to 3 separate monitoring stations. The code to the door changes every 90 seconds. You've hired the best security auditors in the world, and they've walked through every inch of the building and declared it impenetrable. And with all this security, you wake up one morning to find the vault door wide open and $285 million gone. This is exactly what happened to the Drift protocol on April 1st, 2026. What you are about to hear is the story of the largest decentralized finance heist of the year. And it is a story that fundamentally rewrites the rules of what it means to be secure in the uncertain world of crypto. The note that wasn't a joke. On the morning of April 1st, the team at Drift Protocol watched their total value locked begin to drain like a punctured artery. In less time than it takes to brew coffee, nearly half the money on the platform had evaporated into the Solana blockchain. The official account on X posted a message that would be screenshotted and shared and analyzed for weeks. It read, in its entirety, "This is not an April Fool's joke. Proceed with caution until further notice." The Drift token dropped 40% in the hour that followed. Security firms began tweeting alerts. Users checked their wallets and found them empty. But the most disturbing detail was only starting to emerge from the chaos. The vault had not been broken into. The vault had been opened from the inside by people who had no memory of turning the key. But to understand how you open a vault without remembering it, you first have to understand what the thieves brought with them to the door. And what they brought was $750 million that did not exist. The phantom currency. If you want to convince a bank to hand you $750 million, you need collateral. The attacker understood this. They did not bother trying to steal collateral that already existed. They made their own. They created a token called Carbon Vote and gave it the ticker CVT. They minted 750 million units of it. Then they did something so simple it almost feels insulting to call it a strategy. They seeded a small liquidity pool on Radium with $500 of their own money and began to trade with themselves. Buy, sell, left hand to right hand, round and round until the activity looked organic. This is what we call wash trading. It manufactures a price history. To the external price feeds that Drift relied upon, Carbon Vote began to appear as a legitimate asset trading at roughly $1 per token. The blockchain's accountants are not skeptical, and smelling fraud isn't quite in their scope. They only see data, and the data said the attacker was holding $750 million in clean, verified wealth. The counterfeit bills were in the briefcase. Now they needed someone at the bank to accept them. That someone would not be a stranger on the internet. It would be a partner, a trusted voice in a private channel. And the partnership began, as all great deceptions do, with a handshake at a conference bar in the autumn of 2025. The handshake in autumn. Great heists do not start with a crowbar. They start with a simple introduction. The attackers began in fall 2025 by approaching Drift contributors at major crypto conferences, posing as a legitimate quantitative trading firm. Over 6 months, they built what felt like real professional relationships across multiple countries. They spoke about liquidity depth and basis spreads and yield optimization in the unhurried, precise manner of people who actually do the work. They wanted to integrate a large ecosystem vault onto Drift. They were friendly, professional, and in no rush at all. Post-exploit forensics and on-chain analysis point with medium-high confidence to the same North Korean state-affiliated actors behind the Radiant Capital hack. The group is tracked as UNC 4736, also known as Citron Sleet or Apple Juice. The individuals shaking hands in those hotel lobbies were not the leaders of the attack. They were recruited intermediaries, a human layer to the heist. Their entire function was to look normal, so that the real operators could remain invisible. The investigation showed that the profiles used in this operation had fully constructed identities, including employment histories, public-facing credentials, and professional networks. The fake firm created a Telegram group, discussed trading strategies, onboarded an ecosystem vault with over $1 million in real capital, and held multiple working sessions. They did not ask for favors. They did not request administrative access. They just built rapport. And then they did the one thing that dissolves suspicion faster than any credential or reference. They deposited more than $1 million of their own capital into a Drift ecosystem vault. In a world where everyone is trying to extract value, someone who voluntarily puts value in looks safe and trustworthy. And that 7-figure deposit opened a door that no amount of polite conversation could have unlocked. But access to a Telegram channel is not the same as access to a machine. To get inside the developer's computer, they needed to send something that looked like work. And they did. The invisible door in the code editor. Ironically, there was no phishing email or suspicious link sent to the people in charge. There was only a GitHub repository, shared between people who had come to regard each other as partners. By March of 2026, the groundwork was complete. The fake firm shared a front-end integration for their vault, but inside the repository sat a configuration file that was anything but standard. The likely compromise came through two vectors. First, a contributor cloned a code repository that exploited a known vulnerability in the development environment. When the Drift developer opened the workspace, that file executed a hidden task. There was no pop-up, no permission dialog, no visual indicator of any kind. The developer's machine was compromised in absolute silence. Second, another contributor was urged to download a test flight application presented as the firm's wallet product. TestFlight is Apple's platform for distributing pre-release applications that bypasses the standard App Store security review. Between the poisoned development environment and the fake mobile application, the attackers could now see what the guardians of the protocol saw. They could watch the keys being turned. But watching the keys turn is not the same as holding them. To take control, they needed signatures. And they knew exactly how to get them, and that was by exploiting a feature of Solana that almost no one outside of core development ever thinks about. Here is what makes a heist like this so difficult to see coming. The Carbon Vote token was born in silence, traded against itself in a loop, and propped up to a dollar valuation that existed only in the Oracle's imagination. The durable nonce accounts were live by March 23rd. The pieces were all there, laid out in public view, but they were scattered. An anomaly in a price feed that no human eye was watching. Nobody connected the dots because the dots weren't in the same room. What you would have ideally wanted in the days before the drain was a way to see what was suddenly moving, what tokens were appearing out of nowhere and attracting volume, what traders were paying attention to and what they were ignoring. That's what the FOMO app is built to do. It shows you what top traders are buying and selling across Solana, Base, and BNB chain in real time. It surfaces trending tokens early, often before they hit the timeline. If Carbon Vote had popped up with fake volume and no real backing, it would have registered on that radar. And someone with the FOMO app would have asked the question that nobody asked until it was too late. The time bomb in the blockchain. The problem with signing a blank check is that you rarely remember doing it. You only remember when the check clears. The attacker used a feature of the Solana network called durable nonces. Under normal conditions, a Solana transaction expires after about 90 seconds. This is a safety measure. It prevents old, signed instructions from lingering in the mempool. A durable nonce replaces that expiration with a permanent value. It allows a transaction to be signed today, held offline indefinitely, and broadcast next month or next year. Between March 23rd and March 30th, the attacker set up durable nonce accounts and obtained 2 of the 5 required multisig approvals from Security Council members to meet the required threshold. They were told these were routine administrative adjustments connected to the partnership and an upcoming migration of the council itself. The signatures were given freely. What they did not see, buried inside the bytecode, was a clause that would transfer complete administrative control of Drift protocol to an external wallet the moment the transaction was broadcast. And then, on March 27th, Drift performed that migration. About a week before the incident, Drift changed its multisig to a 2/5 setup, 1 legacy signer plus 4 new signers, and did so without adding a time lock. A time lock is the circuit breaker of decentralized governance. When a protocol wants to whitelist a new token as collateral, the time lock forces a waiting period, 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever the community has agreed upon. That window exists so that people can see the change coming and react. It is the time to scream, "Wait, what is this Carbon Vote token and why is it suddenly worth $750 million?" Without the time lock, there would be no waiting period. The change would occur instantly, at machine speed. The last safety rail had been removed by the very people who needed it most. On the morning of April 1st, at exactly 11:06, the attacker pressed a button. What followed was 12 minutes of pure automated extraction. 12 minutes to midnight. At 11:06 in the morning on April 1st, the countdown ended. The attacker broadcast the pre-signed durable nonce transactions. 4 blocks apart, the administrative keys were transferred. The coup was silent and complete. With full control of the protocol, the attacker moved with the precision of someone who had rehearsed these exact steps dozens of times in a simulation environment. First, they used the compromised admin key to create a fake collateral market for CVT, the worthless token they had minted 20 days earlier, and disabled Drift's safety system that prevents massive rapid asset drains. The Oracle system, still humming along on weeks-old wash trading data, accepted the token at $1 per unit. The protocol's internal accounting now believed the attacker possessed $750 million in borrowing power. Second, they disabled every withdrawal limit, every circuit breaker, every safeguard that might slow down a bank run. Third, they began to borrow. They drained 5 vaults within seconds. Jupiter LP tokens, Wrapped Bitcoin, Solana, Jito, even Fartcoin, the meme coin, because no asset was too ridiculous to steal. 31 transactions fired in rapid sequence. When the sequence finished, the vaults of Drift Protocol were basically empty. But an empty vault on Solana is still a trail of breadcrumbs. The money had to move. It had to cross a bridge. And the keeper of that bridge watched it happen in real time and did nothing. The great escape across the chain. Stealing the money is only the first step. Keeping it is the next. The stolen assets were immediately routed through decentralized exchange aggregators and swapped into stablecoins, primarily USDC. From there, the attacker began a sustained bridging operation, moving the funds from Solana to Ethereum using Circle's cross-chain transfer protocol. Over $232 million in USDC was bridged across more than 100 transactions over 6 hours. This is the point where the story gets a little bitter and controversial. On-chain investigator Zach XBT tracked the flow of funds as it happened. The bridging occurred during United States business hours. Circle, as the issuer of USDC, possesses the technical ability to freeze tokens associated with illicit transfers. The company had exercised this power just days earlier, freezing 16 unrelated corporate hot wallets in connection with a sealed civil case. There was precedent. There was capability. There was a window. The window closed. No freeze occurred. Security researcher Spectre noted that the attacker deliberately avoided converting to Tether during the bridging process, suggesting the hacker was confident Circle would not freeze the funds. The funds crossed the bridge, were converted into approximately 129,000 ETH, and were dispersed into a network of automated laundering wallets that matched patterns long associated with North Korean state operators. The money vanished. In its wake, the damage radiated outward. Piggy Bank, Reflect Money, Ranger Finance, a dozen other protocols that depended on Drift for liquidity paused operations or covered user losses from their own treasuries. Drift has frozen remaining protocol functions, removed compromised wallets from the multisig, and flagged the attacker addresses across multiple exchanges and bridge operators. The vulnerability that audits can't see. The smart contracts were clean. The audits from Trail of Bits in 2022 and ClawSecure just weeks before in February 2026 had found nothing because there was nothing to find. The attacker did not exploit any flaws in Drift's programs or smart contracts, and no seed phrases were compromised. The code was not the problem. The humans were. The vulnerability was trust. It was the handshake at the conference bar. It was the $1 million deposit that looked like shared risk. It was the developer opening a workspace they had opened 1,000 times before. All multisig signers were on cold wallets, a reminder that even strong controls can be bypassed when the human layer is targeted. This is the new shape of the threat. Nation-state actors are now running long-game human intelligence operations. They are not scanning for open ports anymore. They are building relationships across multiple countries. They are contributing legitimate code that contains one single, invisible seam waiting to be split open. In the weeks after the attack, Immunify circulated a statistic that has become a kind of epitaph for projects like Drift. 83% of native tokens from hacked protocols never recover to their pre-hack prices. The market does not forgive, nor does it forget. Drift Protocol was not destroyed by a genius programmer or a zero-day vulnerability. It was destroyed by a patient, well-funded intelligence operation that understood the oldest rule of theft. The safest vault in the world is only as secure as the person who knows the combination. And somewhere, right now, another handshake is being exchanged at another conference. Another Telegram channel is being created. Another developer is about to clone a repository. The only question that matters is, can you see it coming before it does?